this girl that came in from Alamosa to help me at the bank because I don't have a needle.
Do you want to move here?
I know, right? She is stuck on slow. So, I didn't think I was gonna make it up time.
Josh is.
Why?
It's nice.
I was like, I don't think it's bad.
Did you turn it on because we're now live?
It could be.
Oh my gosh, we can do this.
It could be the parking outside again.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Usually
Yeah, there was only
I
one
see him
spot when I
walking up
pulled in.
now.
Yeah, I see him.
Is he walking out? Yeah, I think Joe's
Joe's
opening
out
the
there.
door.
Joe's out there, okay.
We're gonna have to flag off 6 spaces out there, put our own names on it. A to Z. And it's good Joe's out there, he'd be walking all the way around, which is my typical thing.
Wow, that was loud.
I would have walked down here, but I had, I'm taking the EMT course through Upper Pine, and it's on Tuesdays, and I miss every other Tuesday. I got permission, but I did 6 to 6:25 in the car. So I'll just drive down and listen.
I hurt my Achilles sometime in the last 6 weeks. I don't know how.
Tequilas.
That sucks.
I pushed it up into,
Really affected my.
okay, I had cheese enchiladas from tequilas.
All right. Why is it I can never find this thing?
Can't.
I know, it was a while back.
How far back? Not 421, I'm sure. That's way too far.
Don't worry, we're just waiting for you, Josh.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh, I had no idea who she was referring to. It didn't matter to me, I'm just like,
There's a
you
rental.
don't wanna hear what I have to tell you, so let's move on.
Is it for real?
Just waiting on you, Josh.
If I could find a parking space, maybe.
No, I know. We'll give you a minute here. Get
This is the
situated.
last day,
Is it?
Yeah.
or last time, I should say.
So.
That's dog training.
It's not. Yeah, let me I did not realize the size of the kennel I just bought for them.
Too small, too big.
It is, I mean, it is monster huge. Yeah, I mean, my dogs are big and that kennel is, this is when I had them locked in.
You
and
wanna
they
get
were
your,
sleeping.
Yeah.
do you need to get your
Alright.
screen up,
They're
Josh?
gonna
or
grow
do you-
into them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Everybody ready? I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order dated May 4th, 2021. It is 6:31 p.m. Roll call.
Trustee Black.
I am here.
Trustee Dallison.
Here?
Trustee Joswick.
Here.
Trustee Moreland.
Here.
Trustee Politis.
Here.
Trustee Cesaro.
Here.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
All present.
If everybody would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. This time. I pledge allegiance. All right, does the board have any conflicts of interest to announce at this time? No, seeing none, we will move on to general public input. Do we have anyone in the Zoom audience that would like to address the board? Is that a no? All right, did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from April 20th, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 2021 minutes as presented by the town clerk.
Second?
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our department reports. We have Jeremy, Public Works. Do you have anything to add to your report?
I don't have anything to add, we made our last 2 water connections today, over on Mesa and over by the LDS church, so, all the pipe is officially in the ground for the project, and so now we'll be working on cleanup, paving, and trying to put some of this stuff back together. I know we got a mess all over.
And Jeremy did state earlier that we are on track at, at 8 corners, so hopefully, perfect. All right, any other questions for Jeremy? All right, moving on to Marshall. Chief, would you like to address the board?
Board of Trustees. I wanted to take some time to talk with you as your Chief Law Enforcement Officer about the concerns that I have regarding Senate Bill 2162, known as the Jail Reduction Bill. These concerns are not just mine alone, but are the concerns of all police chiefs and the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as many other organizations as shown on page 3 and 4 of CACP's opposition statement, which I provided to you. Before I begin, I want to preface this conversation by stating, we in law enforcement agree that there needs to be police reform, but there also needs to be sentencing reform, which we have no control of. Funding needs to be invested in mental health, drug, and alcohol treatment programs and facilities, of which we have none in Southwest Colorado. We also agree that there can be jail and bond or bail reform, but not at the sacrifice of crime victims. Chiefs of Police and CACP have been accused of taking an anti-race opposition to Senate Bill 62. This is absolutely false and can't be further from the truth. Truth is, we are fighting for the rights of all victims of crime, no matter their race, color, ethnicity, gender, religion, the LGBTQ community, essentially anyone who may be a victim of a crime. So yes, we classify Senate Bill 62 as an anti-victim bill. The wheels of justice on a good day turn slowly, but has slowed even further this past year due to COVID. Senate Bill 62 will delay the rights of crime victims to have their day in court, to be heard how the crime has impacted them, to access services, and to be made as close to whole again, maybe with restitution or other compensation. How, you may ask? So just imagine, if you will, you were the owner of a small business you started. Maybe you obtained a small business loan or invested your life savings to start your business. Now imagine your business is damaged by a suspect or a theft from your business was committed. The damage or theft has resulted in a loss just short of $20,000, a non-arrestable jailable offense. There is no, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I lost my place. Law enforcement investigates the crime that occurred, and we identify and arrest the suspect. You ask, is the suspect in jail? A common question asked by victims. Imagine how I would feel having to tell you, no, we had to release the suspect on a summons to appear in court. There is no first appearance before a judge, no bond or bail, and you as the victim have to wait 60 to 90 days for the suspect first appearance in court.
If they show.
Now imagine those 60 to 90 days later, the suspect's first appearance date in court, and the suspect fails to appear. There is no consequence for failing to appear, and in fact, until just recently, the suspect could fail to appear up to 3 times before there was any consequence. I ask you, is that fair to you as the victim? Right now I can think of a handful of cases, some cases 4 to 5 years old, in our office, where the suspect failed to appear and has not been located to this day, and the victims of those crimes are still waiting for their day to be heard in court or to be made whole again. Last year with COVID, law enforcement agencies had to adapt to stricter rules enacted by jails and orders issued by judges regarding jailable offenses in response to COVID health concerns. The idea that the depopulation during COVID worked and crimes have decreased is false. Crime has increased all across the state. Durango PD saw a 29% increase in crime from 2019 to 2020. From 2019 to 2020, the Bayfield Marshal's Office saw an increase in property crimes like theft, up 91%. Fraud and identity theft increased 100%. Trespassing, 72%. And motor vehicle theft went through the roof, from 0 in 2019 to 4 in 2020. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but for Bayfield, 4 motor vehicle thefts is a lot.
Wow, that is.
Why do I bring this up? Because these are some of the types of crimes that would be non-jailable offenses that might affect your family members or neighbors. Motor vehicle thefts have increased 22% across the state, and because of our opposition, an amendment to Senate Bill 62 was made, taking motor vehicle theft out of the bill as a non-arrestable or jailable offense. But I ask you, why should the crime that happened to you as that small business owner of damage or theft up to $20,000 be considered any less significant than any other crime? As the victim of a crime, the crime that has occurred to you can be life-altering in many different ways. And the most important thing to you as a victim is the crime that happened to you. We do not believe that any one crime should be considered less important or insignificant than any other for any victim. We in law enforcement use discretion on a daily basis regarding arrest, issuing citations or jailing someone. For municipal offenses, petty offenses, a majority of traffic offenses, and even misdemeanors, we do not jail anyone for those, and they are issued a citation to appear in court. But with Senate Bill 62, our discretion is taken away regarding arrest for most crimes, unless we can justify that the person poses a threat to the safety of another or is likely to commit additional offenses, an unattainable threshold. I will close with this. We in law enforcement are relieved that Derek Chauvin was found guilty. George Floyd should be alive today, whether the crime he committed was arrestable or jailable or not. The fact is this: Derek Chauvin had a black heart and showed no regard for the value of human life, especially George Floyd's. After the passing of Senate Bill 217, the policing reform bill in Colorado, we in law enforcement adjusted and made the changes we were required to make, many of which we were already doing. As more policing reform comes our way, we will adapt and adjust. But there comes a point where we have to take a stand for what is right, and as a guardian of our community, I am committed to defending victims' rights. And I'll take any questions or answer any questions that you may have. I've provided you with a lot of information regarding this bill.
Can you, I mean, I understand this bill has been amended now. Has it been a couple times?
There's only been one amendment, and in that amendment was they took the motor vehicle theft out of there. The other amendment that they made was that you could fail to appear up to 3 times before any consequence, and they lowered it from 3 to 2.
Okay.
And in our mind, 2 does not do any justice for crime victims anymore, any better.
And what are you hearing about kind of the momentum? I mean, I've been following this. I just, what are you hearing from like a state level at this point?
Well, at the state level, this was supposed to be heard or read at the Senate Appropriations Committee last Friday. The chair of that committee, because of great concern for this bill, pulled that bill. So it has not been heard in any other committee yet.
Is that first reading?
I'm sorry?
Is that for first,
For Senate.
for the Senate committee reading?
For Senate
So
Appropriations.
basically, before,
But it's,
to mark, they were to do the markup on the bill.
it passed its first reading.
Did it go through the House?
Yes,
So it's been marked up in the House?
yes.
So when you say he pulled it, do you mean that it was PI'd?
I'm sorry?
When you say he pulled it, does that mean that it was postponed indefinitely?
No, the chairperson pulled it because of continued concerns and greater concerns for this bill, but it can still come back, it just has not been rescheduled yet.
Okay.
And so, Joe, what do you think the intent of it was? Why was this written? I get the depopulation, you know, holding people for ridiculous amounts of time, because they can't pay their bail. Is that what, at the heart of this, is that where this is coming from?
Obviously, a lot of this came from the incident that happened with George Floyd, which I completely get and understand. Again, that was just bad policing. That was just a bad officer. And as I stated, whether it would have been a jailable offense or not, George Floyd should be alive today. Now, part of the discussion is that a lot of people spend a lot of time in jail because they don't have the money for their bail, which I get. So there's some other reforms that could be done, again, regarding bail reform or whatever, or even lowering the class of some offenses. But I don't think that that necessarily means that you should not appear before a judge, or the fact that you get to fail to appear before a court at all. It's just mind-blowing. A couple of things, last week, Barbara McLaughlin interviewed Senator Lee, who was one of the writers of this bill. And some of the things that I took from that, one of them which was being George Floyd. Lee made a statement that too many people are dying in the jails or in prison. That's not our fault. We just enforce the laws that our legislators write. We have no control over how a jail is run or how a prison is run. That's something that needs to be addressed by sheriff's departments or the prisons. Another thing that Lee stated was that we way underfund behavioral and mental health services, and it is better to treat those in facilities than in jail. I absolutely 100% agree with that. But here's the problem. They need to throw funding into those programs and facilities. Southwest Colorado, we struggle with getting people the appropriate treatment because we don't have a long-term care facility in Southwest Colorado.
Nearest
We
bed
com-
in Pueblo or
we compete.
Grand Junction?
Nearest locations is either Grand Junction or Pueblo. And 99% of the time, anybody that we have in custody that should go to one of those facilities, there's no beds available. So where do they go? They end up going to jail because they've committed a crime. Unfortunately, we have a gentleman here in town that we deal with all the time. And it's because of mental health issues. And where he needs to be is in a long-term care facility. But I know that there have been times where we've arrested him for a crime and he has spent 3, 4, 5 months in the jail before a bed became available in Grand Junction or Pueblo for him to get the necessary treatment that he needs. There's a number of other statements that Senator Lee made in that interview, which we completely disagree. So I'm asking for your support in supporting myself and the other chiefs. In Southwest Colorado, the majority of the chiefs and sheriffs in Southwest Colorado oppose this bill. And so what I'm asking for is the board support in my opposition to this. As you very well know, the Durango City of Durango and their council 2 times have voted to oppose this bill as well and support their chief of police.
Just might add that the Durango City Council and many of the councilors walked back their opposition after they received some additional information from other sources. As you probably well know, the La Plata County Sheriff is a big proponent of this bill. And I think that the Marshal brings up a great point about arrestable offenses versus jailable offenses. And what we're really talking about here is a person's ability to bond and an equity and justice sort of situation. So those are things to think about here. You know, there's no changes in the crimes committed. And if if you are proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt, the judge, of course, can still sentence someone to jail. And so it's a matter of what happens to the person upon probable cause to believe someone's committed an offense before they've been brought through the judicial system, and ultimately what should happen to that person while they're awaiting trial under their constitutional rights.
And those counselors that walked back their opposition took a neutral stance on it, so it's not that they, I'll be honest, I feel like there's a lot of partisan pressure on this bill, and I think that's what it's coming down to in a lot of the discussions I've been involved in, so I think there's a little bit of that going on as well. So, does the board have any other questions for Joe? Any other
Not
thoughts?
really, I'd be in support of supporting our marshal on this.
Say again?
I'm in support of supporting our marshal on this. I mean, he makes a strong case for making people bond properly and appear before a judge in a proper fashion.
So just a reminder to speak into the microphone.
I apologize.
And a lot of boards, a lot of governments have been asked to, sign a resolution. If that's the direction we want to go, we can have that discussion as well, if everyone is on board.
I would support it, and I would be happy to do a resolution on it. Supporting.
Yep.
Chief?
I would agree.
It's not that I don't support the chief. You know that. I want to find a way to get bonding reform, and this obviously isn't the way to do it,
No, it's not.
But
That's why I support him in this piece. It
where are
doesn't
we
mean
going to
the-
get there?
Yeah.
I don't want to come out and say it because it's a problem. It's a problem. People are wasting away in jails for crimes that they possibly didn't even commit, because they can't bond out, I'm not saying it's a problem locally. I don't know, but
One of the things that, and I need to read up a little bit more on this in the program that Atlanta is using. And it somewhat directly addresses bond or bail issues, but what it really does is it provides those services for us, that gives us options, and not just jail. Options to take them somewhere where if the underlying issue is a mental health issue, that's where we can take them instead of taking them to jail. And we have been kicking and screaming for years down here in Southwest Colorado that we don't have the capability or facilities to deal with those type of issues. Drug and alcohol, mental health issues, which are a lot of the time an underlying issue that needs to be addressed. And being able to get them in touch with those services or take them directly to those services would definitely be a huge help. And we've been kicking and screaming in Southwest Colorado for years that we need help. And it's not just Southwest Colorado. All your rural communities deal with this because we're not Denver. We're not the metro area.
Right.
Is this
We have a
opening up,
number of facilities and treatment.
is this opening up any form of communication about the needs down here? There's been a lot of noise. There's been a lot of noise from La Plata County about this to the state level.
There's been a lot of noise, but again,
Well,
we're
The noise is-
and that's,
trying to fight this on the surface, that this is a bad bill for victims of crime. What we're asking as the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police is let's all sit down and talk about this and come up with other solutions. This is just not the one.
Yeah.
I think the other option too, if we want to go that way, we could submit a letter on behalf of the board to the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police from the board.
You could, yes.
And
One to the Colorado Department of Health, asking them to give contemplation to a mental health facility here in southwest Colorado, or support for one, because certainly, at one point in time, I know there was some place for people to go, because I remember discussions about it. But at some point in time, it went away.
We don't have mental health services, but
No, I mean a place for people to go, a place for them to be committed so
For
that they're
acute
safe.
long-term
Right.
treatment, we don't have that.
Yeah, there is nothing, and there should be.
And, and I think it's kind of funny because and I know can of worms, whatever, but, we go to these breakfasts with our La Plata County commissioners and they go, Axis, Axis, Axis. Everything's doing just fine. Keep on funding us. Therefore, I think everything's fine. And I'll be honest, we talked about the Denier Center and changing the Denier Center from Denier to homeless. And I said, well, what about, our youth who are in need, who are in crisis? Like, there's no place locally. Joe, where do they go if you have somebody under 18 who's in crisis?
Well, again, it's the same issue.
Mm-hmm. So, it is a crisis. I don't know that this is how to deal with it, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We need more services in mental health.
But specifically pertaining to this bill, I would,
I support
you don't have to put your name on it, but I would like to maybe give direction to Katie on where we want to go with this.
Can I just ask a question? And this is for later discussion. I don't want to take up any more time tonight, but what you're talking about, mental health facilities, I always hate saying, I remember back when, but I do remember back when, because we were talking about this in the 90s.
Yep.
When it was the same issue, and people were, and the sheriff's department was transporting people. And be that as it may, I would just like to find out from you, talk to you a little bit more about it, talk to somebody about it, find out where we are with that. Because seriously, it has been in excess of 20 years that we have been talking about this, and obviously the problem is still there. So I would just, not tonight, but at some point in time, I wouldn't mind hearing about what, if anything, has been done, because there was a huge push back then, and it went nowhere, obviously. And just another comment on this whole thing is that I tried reading the bill, and I'm not smart enough to figure that thing out. It just is beyond me what they were trying to do in there. I will rely on your opinion of this, because I have not heard the other side of it, but I will support you in this one.
Well, my suggestion along those lines, Trustee Jaswick, is that you take the time to understand the bill, and I would suggest that, and I might recommend that to the trustees, but because there is a very different position on the other side. And, but it's your determination, decision, whether you want to just go with one side and support the marshal on this, which is perfectly okay. But please understand, there is a very distinct other side to this justice, this equity and justice bill.
And in your opinion, does it address the issues that the marshal brings up?
Well, I've been here for 35 years, and I agree with you. We tried to deal with juvenile justice, we tried to deal with mental health. We had beds for a while in the 90s. Things have gone away. By saying no to this bill, we're not going to suddenly get all those beds back. That's not going to address that issue. That is a separate issue that needs to be addressed. This is specifically addressing equity and justice and arresting people for certain crimes, property crimes, the marshal raised, perfectly great example, and the determination that this may be a situation where a summons and complaint is readily available, getting a person into court, and the officer still has discretion to determine whether or not this person is going to be a danger to the community unless they're arrested, or may not show up. And if I can, in my probable cause affidavit, still establish those things, that person may still be arrested. So there's still a lot of policing to be done. But again, there's a lot to this bill, as you mentioned, and it may be prudent to really look at it and try and get the other side as well. But I'm not arguing with what the marshal has to say. He's perfectly legitimate in all his statements. I think Chief Brammer had the same points, but once a number of the counselors got additional information from civil rights attorneys, from other criminal attorneys, they said, oh, I'm not gonna support this, I'm gonna take a neutral stance. So, again, I'm just throwing that out there, devil's advocate, but there's nothing wrong with what the marshal had to say, and if you are in a position, you feel confident that this is the position you need to take, no problem.
No, and that's exactly why I wanted to have Joe come to talk, because
Yeah.
You
bet.
I've been in discussions with this for a couple weeks, and there is so much to it, and there is a lot of chatter out there about it, but I just wanted to, give Joe the chance to present his side of this, so. Appreciate you.
So are we doing a resolution on it?
So, everybody's okay? So I guess, we can,
So a resolution would require putting it on the agenda for the 18th. If you would like to do a letter of support signed by the mayor, that's certainly something that my guess is that she could ask you to sign it, or, that's your call. It's not necessarily coming from the Board of Trustees.
yeah, and I also would ask you, if you get a chance, you can reach out to Matt Salko, because he's been sitting in a lot of these conversations as well, with Sean Smith, and he's got some good input about it as well. So maybe give everybody a little chance to do their homework, and then we can certainly put something on the agenda or formulate a letter, and whoever would like to sign it could sign it. So, okay.
Yeah, I would appreciate that, and I don't particularly want to do anything this evening.
Right, just,
And, so, yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing a little more from the other side about it. I mean, this is obviously a fairly complex issue. And I really do appreciate Joe's explanations, because that clarified a lot of stuff for me. So, yeah, if we could hold off for a couple weeks, that'd be good.
okay. Moving on to town manager report. Katie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
So we did interview a candidate for the finance director that was very promising. The person lives on the Front Range, so there were some things that this candidate wanted to discuss with client, another town that she is working for. So we'll see if this is something. This candidate we would ask that she come to Bayfield. She has been in this area before, but basically make sure that this is kind of the second part of the interview, if you want to call it that. We have hired a temp, Julie Weber, and it's just been a joy to have her at Town Hall. I want to say that this is kind of your last look at the posters. I wanted to make sure they got back to the kids before they leave school. So enjoy them. They are also on Facebook if you want to see them there as well. I should say the winners are on Facebook. All the posters are on our website, so that's another way. I think that's really important to schedule a June work session to talk about the lots that you're potentially going to purchase this month. And also the Dove Ranch appraisals and how to proceed there as well. It would probably be about 2 hours. I would think that it'd have to be an availability of your town attorney. I know that I'm going to send out a doodle poll, but I'm really asking you to respond so we can plan around that. CCCMA is having their conference, or actually having in-person conferences, so there's a couple schedules that we're going to try to figure out around that, but I'll send you out a doodle poll, including your town attorney as well, so that you're available. I did hear from the HOA, Cinnamon Heights HOA, I don't know what you call her, Janet O'Bannon, and their president of their HOA is asking questions about what we're gonna do. And I was very clear with Janet. I said, you'll be the first organization I'm gonna sit down and talk with. I said, this is, we now become HOA members just like anybody else, and but I think I understand that we may look like a powerhouse, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to really, talk with you, engage what the concerns are, and have that conversation. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that it'll probably come out in the press. I even asked Shannon, I said, Shannon Mullane, the Herald writer, I said, do you know anything about that? And she kind of said, oh, that's good information, maybe next week. So anyway, I just want to make sure that you're aware that, they're typical homeowners. They're concerned about what this is going to do. But I said, I understand your fears, but it is important for me to sit down. And if it's, if there's a liaison from the board also, just to hear them out, whatever their concerns may be. So I don't really have anything else. We're buying a new grill to have our cookout. So our staff is very excited about this cookout. So I think these employee meetings have been very positive, kind of team building. This darn Beth gives us these hard puzzles that we we cannot do, but fun to kind of just be a team and sit down and eat together. So it's been good. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Katie?
Are
I'd
we
be curious to be
invited to the cookout?
If there's more than 2 trustees, I do have to notice it. So if you would like to come, it's at noon on the 26th. If you would like to
takeout?
come. I'm sorry?
Takeout?
No, come.
There's no takeout there.
You can come join us. Just let us know.
Vaccinated.
RSVP.
It is out. It is at the shop, so a little lot more outdoors. No takeout.
Yeah, let us know ahead of time if you'd like to come so we can post. There's-
Right.
If you have another
Post-
meeting with Judy Spady, I want to be the fly on the wall.
Get our own recording. That
Yeah.
one's cool.
Except I'm serious, I want to be in the room.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
Record it.
Julie Hollingsworth filmed it. I
See
read
if you
just
can
a
watch
part
it.
of the social media that Ashley sent me, and I didn't even recognize it, so I didn't even finish it.
There you go.
Where did they post?
Okay, moving on. Beth, do you have anything to add to your report?
I have 3 quick things.
Yeah, you can stand up and.
Here.
Still loving my job. 3 quick things to add. Bayfield is getting a new direct primary care physician. Dr. Katie McCrae is going into practice.
She's
And-
my doctor.
And if you're not familiar with direct primary care, instead of billing insurance, you pay a monthly fee to be a member of their practice. I do so with my physician in Durango, and it's a really neat model. And she's going to have programs where employers could buy in for their employees at $50 a month. A lot of services are covered by that. I helped one restaurant apply for their restaurant revitalization funds yesterday, and we were successful. She's getting money. And then thanks to Lori and CDPHE, on Tuesday, the 11th, we're going to have a COVID vaccination bus parked right in front of Upper Joe on Mill Street.
Nice.
And at my suggestion, they're probably going to be staying at either Beamer or Jackie Moreland's places and not staying in Durango. So
Perfect.
got a lot going on. And that vaccine bus can take walk-ins, and they will have both J&J and Pfizer, and they may be starting to cycle through here every week.
Perfect.
That would be cool.
That would be
Yeah, really aimed at the younger population. And
Excellent.
so we're excited about that.
All right.
Back to normal, yes.
Anybody have any questions for Beth? All right, moving on to the financial agenda items, sales tax. That was in your packet.
So I don't want you to move too fast. I just wanted to make sure that you know that our economic and community engagement coordinator, we've funded for this year. I think it's really important as you're looking at these reports to see if you're getting enough, too much, or if there's more you would consider as economic development or economic or community engagement. So those are, I think, are important issues. Sales tax, we are looking good. So there's additional about $116,000 in addition to 2020. I'm hoping that that's because our businesses are open and thriving. That's certainly our goal. I wanted to make sure that you knew that I talked to the auditor regarding the reporting of sales tax, and I think I figured out what was going on. So we'll make sure that we are following a consistent pattern of audits and their accrual techniques and also the cash techniques that the town should recognize.
All right. Moving on to the 2021 budget supplement, resolution 486.
Well, this may look like crazy, crazy expensive, but it's really not as bad as it is. These are some of the items in the general fund that you've already approved previously. The auditor for their 2021 audit is going to be looking for the budget supplement, so I want to make sure that we're following that protocol. The Cinnamon Heights, your purchase of those lots is $710,000. Plus, we have closing costs. There'll be other costs associated with that. Any costs associated with this almost $300,000 has to come before the board. But there could be anything from engineering. You may decide to do infrastructure installation. You may decide to do a driveway. But I think the first thing you have to do is worry about stormwater detention. And actually, when my discussion with Janet O'Bannon today, they wanted us to figure out about the irrigation system for Cinnamon Heights. So the whole phase, and I said, well, I will be certainly happy to discuss that with you when the town actually owns those lots. The $760,000 for the water line project, we're actually under budget. We're under budget almost $2 million. But we estimated the cost to be mostly in 2020. We're going to finish this project, and so really half of it's going to be in 2020 and half of it's going to be in 2021. So this is just an additional amount. And then the diesel mower, this was just you all had approved this previously. Looking for your approval on this resolution.
All right, does the board have any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 486, the budget supplement number 2.
So move.
Second.
All right, and we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our old business. Do we have any general public input pertaining to agenda item 5A? Out in Zoom land. Seeing none, we'll move on to our ditch crossing Schroeder Ditch, Sossaman.
So I did review this. It does match the Los Pinos ditch crossing, with exception of the name, the actual crossings, and the crossing fee. So I just wanted to make sure that they were consistent. And I did mail both copies to in situ form regarding their signature. So I have not heard from their contract representative about this document. But we have some time to work on that.
All right, does the board have any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Schroeder Ditch Crossing Agreement for Sossaman.
I would second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black,
Yes.
trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Joswick,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Politis,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
and Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to new business. Do we have any general public input pertaining to any items on the agenda, 6A, B, or C? Seeing none, we will move on to 6A, ditch crossing Los Pinos, Sossaman, and Mountain View.
So, I did get, a little discount on the crossing fee. I don't know, when we do the, North Oaks Street, we're gonna have to pay, the full amount. But anyway, this is, we had it edited, they sent a couple edits back, and it is consistent with the agreement for Schroeder, ditch crossing, and so I'm recommending that you approve this.
All right, does the board have any questions? Comments?
I would make a motion that we approve the Los Pinos ditch crossing agreements for both Sossaman and Mountain View.
Second.
that.
Brenna, second. All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black,
Yes.
trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Joswick,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Politis,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
and Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to Bottom Shelf Brewery expansion into Mill Street parking spaces.
So I want to make sure that this is not like any lease. This has to do with the fact that they had lack of capacity due to the pandemic. We're giving them a chance to have more floor space, if you would like to call it. So this is only a request to lease these almost 3 parking spaces from the town on a town street until the end of October. They still have to go through the modification of premise for their liquor license. That is not what's on the agenda tonight. It is only expanding their area to expand their business due to their lack of capacity in the last year.
All right, does the board have any questions?
So this would only be because of COVID, right?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
And it's a temporary situation.
It's a temporary situation.
Yeah. Getting around on Bayfield's downtown can be tricky enough on the sidewalks, but,
Right, and they would still have to,
They still have to keep the sidewalk
Yeah.
open, yeah.
well, yeah, but
It's so crowded.
still. You say that, but you have tequilas where you have to kind of walk in and around, and the dentist's office where you have to kind of go up and around, and ADA doesn't really meet that, and
They have like one of the nicest sidewalks over there by them, though, on all of Mill Street.
at tequilas?
No, at Bottom Shelf.
Oh,
so-
no, yeah,
Yeah.
theirs they do. But again, to walk down the street, you have to like get past a waitress and,
So there, I assume for like the bump outs in Durango, there's a lot of rules and regulations that these businesses are also agreeing to safety wise. So I'm kind of just wondering what we're doing safety wise.
Well, we had a discussion with Greg from Bottom Shelf Brewery, and we were very clear that you have to set up some type of barrier to protect your restaurant
Right.
customers from vehicle accidents.
Okay.
So I think we still need to work with them, and I want to make it clear that it is his responsibility to protect his customers, and that's not something we'll give him some ideas, we'll check it to make sure that
Make
we
it a
feel that
requirement.
that it's significant or enough, but it's still their responsibility to do something.
Yeah, this just gives them kind of the
Go ahead.
momentum to move forward with the plan at this time. So
Sounds good.
if there's no further questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to approve the 3 parking spaces for BSB.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black,
Yes.
trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Joswick,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Politis,
yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
and Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to the Bayfield Rotary use of softball field for the beer garden on the 4th of July.
I'm a Rotary member. Do I need to recuse myself?
I would
That'd be a
assume
great
so.
idea.
Me.
Should I leave the room?
No, that's
Okay.
Just don't wink and nod.
Back up.
So this is just to request the lease of the softball field. Their event, their special event, liquor license will come before you at your next meeting. Because this is a change, and because we are going to do things a lot differently for the 4th of July, I always feel it's important for the board to have some input when at least there's some changes in this. But basically to give them permission to use a softball field for a beer garden on the 4th of July.
All right.
Why the change?
The last time it was on the soccer field,
Which is
where
out of
there
commission.
is.
Oh, it's still gonna be out of, okay,
Yes,
sorry,
it's still
thank
out of
you.
commission.
Okay.
And this is giving us a chance to spread people out
Yeah.
and
Doesn't this get, I mean, I almost feel like this is like the better opportunity anyways, because don't we have to do a lot less work fencing wise, barriers, all, like, it just seems
I feel
more
like there's
logical anyways.
a lot more control with the fences and the
Yeah.
gates. You can have,
So we are really excited about how this new plan is coming together.
Yeah.
But it will be different, and, and some parts of it may not be popular, but we're gonna make sure it's safe. And, yes, just getting rid of all the job of putting up fencing,
Yeah.
it has been taken away.
And they get a permit from San Juan Basin Health for a giant event too, so this is
They
con-
still have to go
conditional.
through that
Self-certify.
self-certification. We've
Got it.
walked them and walked them. Beth
Held their
has been
hand.
very helpful in that.
Yes, great.
all right, any further questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Rotary use of the North softball field for their beer garden during the 4th of July celebration.
Second.
All right, any further comments?
Actually, can I ask our
Yep.
town attorney a question? Am I able to vote on this, since they're going to have to go through my day job to get certified to be able to do this? And if I say it's okay here as a town trustee, does that impact anything, any permission thinking granted that they're getting from San Juan Basin Public Health?
Well, that's a great question. Will you be directly involved in that decision?
I personally should not, based on my current role, but you never know what I'll be doing in July.
Yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
So this is to allow them
Yeah.
to do it. They still have to present
Okay.
the liquor license to the board. So
Okay.
they still have to go through that process.
but it's great to be mindful of that as you go through this process. So
Sure.
in the event you have voted and suddenly your boss has asked you to supervise this, it's appropriate for you to raise the fact that it's probably inappropriate for me to be involved in making decisions from a health department standpoint.
Okay, so in that arena, I would need to,
Either way,
okay,
right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, this is first in time, so perhaps that second matter in your professional
okay.
job may.
Sorry, I just want to make sure
Oh,
this
you're-
is not like someone thinking that San Juan Basin Public Health has approved this through the Bayfield Town Board.
No.
Because that is not what I'm
Valid,
doing.
completely valid.
Thank you for raising that.
Okay.
But we do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black,
Yes.
trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Joswick,
Yes.
trustee Politas,
Yes,
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
and Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, moving on to the discussion portion of our board. We have our drought task force recommended water restriction, future ordinance.
Okay, well, I think that really here I'm looking for the appetite of the board and how to start finding or consequences for non-compliance of watering. I've asked the staff about the non-compliance citations, and Public Works puts them out there. You have a resolution right now that you've adopted that indicates that you have the authority to do that. And it even says that 378 adopts water restrictions for the town. 378 sets surcharges for noncompliance with the water restrictions, establishes an administrative fee, but I don't necessarily find that authority actually in the ordinance 378. And I'm sorry, I don't have it actually here, but it's actually codified in your code. So currently, right now, you charge $50 for the first violation, $100 for the second violation, and $500 per violation, which I'm assuming would be the third, and everything after that. There has been no consistent manner to apply this. There have been fees that have been just waived just because they complained. I did find out there was one fee that did get paid last year, but that's one out of a couple. This could be a code enforcement issue where you actually just cite them into municipal court, and that sometimes is almost worse than the fee. So I'm kind of looking for your appetite. You know, I proposed a ordinance or some language to an ordinance that would be a code violation. When we're looking at a drought plan, this doesn't really have a whole lot of teeth in it because you have an ordinance and you have a resolution, and they've not really violated a code because your resolution is only a policy. So you know, it's very easy to complain about the fee and say, well, I don't want to pay it. You know, do we shut off their water for non-payment? I don't know. Because the resolution doesn't match. So it was maybe just put together to make it look good, but I don't think it really has a lot of teeth. And I would really kind of like to work with your town attorney and just see, you know, we can come up with a code that you feel comfortable with, but I kind of need to know what your comfort level is.
I feel like similar to the noise ordinance, if we make ordinances that aren't going to be enforced, what's the point of doing it? So who's going to enforce this? Who's going to drive around at night and see if people are watering? Or is that something that you, sir, can do and monitor it somehow?
At the direction of the manager, at this point in time, we're not necessarily going out trying to find a citation in those off hours. How we've been administrating recently is we have your 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. watering, and we usually send out one of the members of Public Works to just go take the cruise around, see if somebody's still watering at 10, 11, 12 o'clock, make sure if that hose is on, it's on an odd even watering day, and then we've been issuing those warnings from there. So, you know, we haven't been necessarily out policing on after hours, but then we also haven't been in a very extreme drought either. So that would be upon direction of, you know, maybe the town board or management on what your comfort level of enforcement and how you would like us to approach that would be.
I mean, I think it's kind of time to get serious. I know we've talked about this for years, and it's, I mean, we're looking to be in a severe drought season. So I think it's time to at least have it in place and discuss our feelings on level of
I 100%
enforcement.
agree.
Well, I 100%
Is this the same water
That's why
system
our
that
state people won't go.
the fire department or the Upper Pine uses is it the same like system of water?
Yes, ma'am, it's all municipal water.
So those who are watering at a turn in an extreme drought could be taking away water that could be putting out a fire, a real fire somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, if they weren't operating within the restrictions of the drought.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all the same storage system,
Okay.
the tanks for the town.
So there was never anything in there about shutting off anybody's water for repeated offenses.
Well, the problem is that you have an ordinance that says for non-payment, but your non-payment has to do with your monthly fees and the resolution doesn't really have a whole lot of teeth in it. And the other thing is that actually, you know, somebody gets a $500 fee or fine the third time, you know, does that make sense? Or do you start with 50, 75, and then $100? And then every violation after the third violation is $100, $100, and $100, because that's where it gets difficult. You know, we can design this so that it's in the code, or we design that so they're just cited into municipal court. In the discussion that we had, our task force said, you know, I really like the fact that Bayfield put kindly to wear a face covering. And I said, well, you know, municipal court is probably not kindly. A fee probably isn't kindly either. But, you know, but we'd have to treat everybody equally, whether it's my yard or Joe's yard or Ashley's yard. You know, it's about treating everybody fairly.
Well, and the last thing I want to do is put something on somebody's plate, but sometimes those little timers can be confusing. And so maybe we have timers for sale and we set them up for you as they're walking out the door, or I don't know if that sounds insane, or just a little Q&A on how to set up a garden timer, because, right? I mean, have you guys seen those things for the ones around your house?
That'd be
They've
a
got
good
all
spot.
those dials.
And then
and
in the
buttons.
next newsletter.
I don't know how to use it.
Maybe we could do a little public info out there on how to set a timer for your.
Well, I also think that just the first time should be a warning.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say
mean,
that.
very
I was like,
honestly.
first violation's immediately a fine. Of course, you're gonna have somebody saying, "What the heck?"
Yeah. So
Another
first violation go warning, and then second go with the 50, 75, and then repeated 100, 100, 100, 100.
Yeah, I'm like 500 a violation seems
Right.
like extravagant to me, and
Well-
like nobody would pay that if they ended up getting that kind of
nobody's
fee.
going to cite somebody for that either.
Yeah.
Right.
So then we just kind of go around in circles. And
Yeah.
they also wanted to find out how we, now where's the carrot? What do we do with lawns that are following the rules? And, you know, that's even harder because we don't want them out at midnight
Yeah.
checking to make sure the sprinklers, that they're watering when they're supposed to be watering. So, the one thing that I've always said, and I've seen more in this town than I've ever seen any place, is the sprinklers that go up in the air, back and forth.
Evaporating.
And they're evaporating, and wind is flying just as I'm walking by. Just a lot of information about what sprinklers to use, when to use them. There's all these other things that we can use as, a better way to have a carrot, not just the stick.
So is there a way maybe could we do something through our local True Value? Like maybe
Absolutely.
see if they're selling these sprinklers that we're recommending, and then maybe
The
see how this-
timers and the,
see if that's even available there.
partnership.
And then maybe there's some sort of, when you're saying carrot, maybe it's something through our local business partner that is promoting proper watering of your yard on the every other day.
Present your water bill, get $5 off or something like
Yeah.
that. Maybe
Yeah.
the town could,
I like that.
You got that, Beth?
something like that.
Beth, you on it?
That
So-
way you at least know they're in the town, or at least on the
Yeah.
water system, let's put it that way.
And I think the education in the newsletter was a great idea. Like, let's put it out there, people get this who are in the town, so it's not like they're not getting the education, because that's gonna be the first part of it, not getting a warning. It's gonna be, well, how do I do this? I have no idea.
Yeah.
And you could put the $5 off coupon for that in our newsletter to give them the advertisement for free that allows them to do something like that.
Yeah.
They gotta have something.
So I got
too.
Beth over here with her ears here, but so my assumption is that citing into municipal court is probably not the direction we want to go. We want to basically amend the ordinance to have a fine in there, so it's a code. It's in the code if we have to shut them off because they didn't pay their $100. Well, it's in the code. So,
I think that rather than shut them off, just put a lien on their place and collect it at tax time.
that's pretty tough.
That's,
No, it's
yeah.
done. I know a guy who doesn't pay his stuff and he pays every year.
So the fear of being your water shut off is pretty immediate. It takes too long for us to get it filed on their taxes. Very honestly, it's a lot of work too.
Well, not only that, but you have the repercussion to the actual lenders that are on those people's properties.
Well,
'cause
geez, that
goes
would
in
get their
front.
attention now, wouldn't it?
What does the lender have to do with it?
But it's too late.
Punish the
If-
lender?
If we're working on, the middle of July, by the time they actually get it on their taxes, we're talking much later. And I can certainly talk to your attorney about that. But I have concerns that doesn't do an immediate need to get them shut off.
No, I think cutting them off from their water is a good,
And how often do we have neighbors calling in, ratting on neighbors?
Not often.
That's what I don't want that, and I don't want people to be calling Joe like, hey, my neighbor's watering on the wrong day. I just want to,
Incentivize that, give them the $5. Yeah.
Hey, Josh and I
I just
are
wanna
guilty every
discourage
day 'cause we
any of
water
that.
all the time.
Not much.
okay. Yeah, I just didn't want all of a sudden the marshal's office to be blowing up with.
Just have a quick question. What, under waste, under the definitions, what is considered a non-beneficial use of water?
It's like hosing off your driveway and
Watering your sidewalk. when
hosing
you
off
need
the
to be watering your
street.
Okay,
lawn.
because that is mentioned in here, and I think it's one of
Or
the
like
things that
washing-
you say you can do.
Washing your car or?
Just curious.
You know, if people use pressure washers for some tasks over using just the regular hose, saves a lot of water, because they work so much more efficiently.
I would just say if you're watering with one of the things with one of the sprinklers that Katie was talking about, if it's hitting your sidewalk or it's overflowing so much that it's going out into the street and going down into the gutters, then that would be a wasteful use of water, is what that makes me think of.
There might need to be a definition in here
Yeah.
unless you want it to be that vague. Like some examples of what waste is. And I agree 100% with Kelly's because I see it in my neighborhood all the time and it drives me insane.
Yeah, we actually had a person call and wanted us to do something about a grandmother that was letting her kids run through the hose. So I was kind of clear that I don't think that's where we're going to start.
So just because we're bringing up this policy again, years ago we had brought up this policy because I had brought it up because we have a garden on our property that we feed with the drip system.
Yeah.
So I have to water it every day. I can't water it every other day or else my plants will die. And so that's an issue that I know multiple people, especially the library garden waters daily.
Yeah, community garden.
So,
Yeah, they're in
so
there.
I think that's definitely something to.
You know, well, that's something that could probably be addressed in the ordinance, saying if you have a drip irrigation system or your automatic sprinkler systems that are watering 15 minutes a night every night are different than somebody that turns water on and runs it for an hour.
So,
hand watering or drip system allowed for small plants, trees, and shrubs.
Yeah, I drip system seems to make sense. I know that 15 minutes may seem sense, but we have no way to time it. I think timing 15 minutes would be, or I think 30 minutes. That will be argued right off the bill in a heartbeat. But so I'm hearing kind of modify the code. The deputies could certainly still, if we make sure that there's some citations, that it's simple, it's a warning. But very honestly, I think the marshal's office has a little more, it's address specific, and I just hope that we're working together as a team because this is going to affect all of us.
Yeah.
The way we're looking at our drought situation right now. So.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things. You just really got to get the word out and let people know how, serious it is this year. And
Has anybody heard what the status of the reservoir is this year?
I heard it was kinda like about 70%.
David, I can't hear you, bud.
About 70%?
Thank you.
All right, I think I've got my direction there, unless there's anything else to add. The procurement with local, a local allowance in there, local preference. This is something that the department directors will look at tomorrow. But part of the local preference in there talks about, let's find that percentage in there, is 5% of the lowest responsible bidder who does not have the local business designation. So there's some percentages in there. I just want to make sure that you're okay with that 5%.
Is that,
Equal to or
is that
less
like
than.
customary for a local
Oh,
preference?
it's pretty customary. In fact,
Is it?
they're all around us. In fact, we had a bid opening, and that was one of the questions from one of the local contractors, is do you have a local preference? And the town does not have one. But it's pretty common in all the places I've been, including counties.
No, I
Typically,
mean,
we'll have
I
a
know
local
local
preference.
preferences, but is the 5%, is that a
5%
customary
is probably right in between. I've seen it less, and I've seen it more.
Okay.
When I asked to the manager's listserv, I got quite a few of their procurement and local preference documents. So I tried to go through them and make it reasonable.
Thank you.
So this will be a resolution at your next meeting.
I like it.
Okay,
Anything else?
none on that. Clearworks.
All right, moving on to Clear Networks.
So I do have Casey Irving on Zoom, and I did hand out this document to you regarding their proposal. Well, we haven't looked shocked yet.
Yeah.
On the agenda where it has the Clear Networks and then in parentheses it has estimated cost over 24 months, internet to the home, 2.8 million.
That's correct.
Well, I don't, you have to explain that to me. What is that?
So that would be the installation of internet through all of our street networks and actually to the home, to your sidewalk, I guess you want to say.
Okay, so to the home is a term of art.
Yes.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you. I thought you were talking about a home.
to all of the homes, and they have estimated serviceable addresses is 1,353. And part of that cost, installation cost, is actually getting it into your house, that $243,900, actually getting it in your house. So we're looking at a total about $3 million. Definitely. Casey, go ahead.
So the way that we typically go in and estimate a project, we break it out into two main costs. One is our infrastructure cost, and that's roughly that $2 million mark that you're seeing there. The other one that we break it out into is installation costs, obviously to the home, which Katie explained, and we estimate that cost based on what our average cost per installation is going to be, so our average cost per home. And we multiply that by what we feel like our take rate is going to be, so our estimated take rate. Currently, we have our estimated take rate at about 40%, and that equals out to about 540 some odd homes, I believe. So we took that and basically that's where we come up with that installation cost. When we're talking about building out a fiber network, obviously there's the infrastructure piece, but I think a lot of times we kind of get left the installation piece, and there's some significant costs there, so we always try and include that in our proposals whenever we're really looking at the actual cost to build out a project area.
And there is a zero missing in the $2.8 million, Casey, just so you're aware.
There's not a
I mean, has
comma.
there been a
Maybe
discussion with the
zero missing
school
with the commas,
yet?
Well, the school, this is included in there, so the $300,000 that they received would be part of that installation. And keep in mind, we still have to comply with the grant that they received. And I'm pretty sure that that's a pretty quick install for the school. That money has to be used.
It has to be used by January 2022.
So they've got some time.
Utilizing those funds would be something we still need to run past the school. I mean, they're on board, obviously, we helped them apply for that grant and pointed them in the direction. But as far as, utilizing those funds and what our match would be, that's something we'd still need to get the school district on board with. We have rolled that out with a couple other school districts in our area, and we've got some pretty cool programs put together. We've kind of detailed them out there, but we're doing basically free internet service and free installation for priority students, like students who would be on a free and reduced lunch program, through June 2024. And then we're doing, monthly discounts for, additional students and or staff members, usually about $10 per month, and that's also lasting through June 2024. Usually that ends up, adding up to about $100,000 over in match, funds. So we haven't had much trouble getting the school districts on board, but obviously that's something that the school districts need to approve and go through. This is kind of like, we needed to get a plan together of, one, how we provide service in Bayfield, and then once we have that, and that's kind of moving forward, we go to the school district and would say, hey, we actually have the ability to start servicing people. Can we utilize your funds for infrastructure, and we'll match it with service?
So we'll take you to the other pages that are actually in the document, the maps. There's 4 distinct areas and we decided not to label them 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D, because somebody's gonna think they're first or not first or whatever. The red area, obviously, the most northern portion of our town, where we believe that we have probably the least, or the worst, I don't know how you would call it, internet service. Worst, least, I don't know.
So that would
Anyway,
make it
it's not as
most
good.
neat.
The yellow area where definitely the school district and that area basically providing that infrastructure. The purple area, the eastern, the northeast or southeastern portion of town, and then the green area, which would be the southwest portion of town. So these are just all areas that we feel that that if we started something and we did the whole red area and everybody in the red said we have this great new internet, by the time you get to the purple area, they will say we can't wait for them to get here.
In the entire area, I mean, where it has now, it's select areas of yellow, but you would be doing the entire area of red?
You'll have to ask Casey that. Casey, he's asking if you did like the yellow area, they would do that entire installation at one time, or in the next that phase.
No, I guess I should have been speaking into the mic. Say for the red area, you have yellow sections there delineated, but I assume that the entire red area would get the fiber?
Yeah, and Katie, you may have to repeat if I heard wrong, but we have that red zone kind of drawn around. You can see the map's fairly tinted in red. That's the zone we're speaking of, and really when we come into a zone, our goal is basically to build out infrastructure and then do installations within that zone while our infrastructure crews would move on to the next zone. So it's kind of in a phased approach where we're trying to hook up everyone at once versus like, we pass one home and we're gonna go try and hook them up. We build out the infrastructure, we pull all the fiber, we do all our splicing, and then we try and hook up everyone within that zone. And then we can move on to the next zone, if that makes sense. The red and yellow lines that you're seeing within zones are really our delineations for our fiber or, lateral fibers or mainline fibers. So just higher count fibers, and that's really just for our design team. I just exported that map so you could kind of see how we've designed it a little bit, give you kind of like a little bit of a glimpse into, I guess, how we would build out that network. But you can probably ignore the colors of the individual lines with any design.
Okay, thank you.
What do we know right now about any of the Recovery Act money coming through?
I've got all kinds of stuff, and all us town city managers are chomping at the bit to get information.
Yeah, because I heard.
Yesterday I took it was Monday night, the governor's office call. We're 60 days before the president finalizes their programs, and it'll be even longer after that before we figure out how that goes to the states, and then how it goes to communities within the states. So we're at least 60 days out.
Okay, because what I'm hearing from that is there's going to be priority for that money. Internet, affordable housing, blah, 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 So I'm just kind of wondering where we stand on that. And then I know there's a big call Friday with Hickenlooper's office.
Yep.
Are you going to be on that one?
I'm supposed to be doing the introductions, but we'll see, and that's still kind of flux as far as timing. I have not heard exactly when we're gonna do that yet,
I'm just wondering what.
but I will let you know.
So then there's the actual cost, the town contribution. We've talked about this. The first, we don't have the $1.2 million in our budget, but we do have money in our budget to get this started. Obviously, we didn't have a plan to determine where we're going to start. We have the school contribution. Clear Networks is looking, if we loaned money to Clear Networks, obviously the fiber would be ours. If they defaulted on a loan, somebody else would probably take it over. So you would have that fiber in the ground. But this is the way that they, over 10 years would pay that back with a certain amount of interest. We would go for grants. I think that's the appropriate thing to do. But I think first of all, is there some appetite, I'll call that again, for the town to be somewhat of a bank for a period of time for this project.
Yeah, if I can just chime in with the grants, too. We obviously track all that stuff and are keeping an eye on all the federal dollars and the state dollars kind of coming through the pipeline. We've been really successful at bringing in a lot of money for broadband, but with just all this money coming through, it's so hard to track right now where that's all going. And it's impossible to say what programs those are going to end up into and how we can access those programs. So we left a question mark there, but really, the more free money, we call it free money, grant money that we can bring in, the better that is for us. And we'll, of course, go after that with the town. We'll approach that, and we'll write grants together and try and show that public-private partnership, because we feel like that's going to be a really big piece. But it's just so hard to tell right now where that's going to end up. So, grants take a long time, and sometimes you're just waiting on information. And if you want to build an entire project based off of grants, which we have done before, it pushes out your timeline immensely. We, instead of looking at 24 months or like 12 months of build time, we're looking at waiting on funding for 2 to 5 years.
Yeah. See, and that's our,
Probably where it comes down to maybe, how your guys, like how Katie's saying, appetite is just, what timeline is the town focused on doing, and that can kind of adjust where we go after funding first. If the town wants to try and provide that as a bank method or as a loan method, and we can try and find grants along the way, or if we just want to wait for grants and then try and build a project around a grant.
Hey, Casey, how many other communities have you gone through that have bankrolled you like that?
The loan style?
Yeah.
Not very many. I'm not sure that we've actually done a full town build that has this kind of mechanism built into it. This would be a first for sure. It's definitely not the first time it's been done.
Yeah.
We've got several examples that we can kind of run through and maybe talk about that with Katie, but
knowing that there's a lot of money coming in that bill, we're hopeful that they'll get enough that will pass down to make grant contributions and things like this, a significant portion of things like this. I know that our approach on, when we do meet with Senator Hickenlooper, will be to remind him that we're kind of the donut hole of technology in the United States here in the Four Corners, because we're as far away as you can get from interstate highways, and interstate highways typically have good fiber close by, and we don't have that because we're not anywhere near that, and we're still trying to get good fiber over Wolf Creek Pass, so, which I think will happen this year. But I like this, and I do want to say that I'm hopeful that the town gets this done and owns it when it's all said and done.
So what, I mean, I think, what's the temperature of the room about the loan style from the board?
Oh, I'm all for loaning them the money to get it done. Let's get this done.
I mean, this is part of our strategic
It is.
It
goals
is.
it's
for
the
the
top-
next
is.
couple
one
of
of our top
years
priorities,
was
too.
to,
So,
yeah,
I mean,
to
and
improve
we've-
upon the internet.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion a couple of times, saying that it's probably better for us to own our own infrastructure rather than be leasing it from somebody else if we can do it.
So this is not necessarily something we would own. This is something that, that they would own. The loan is just for the time that if they defaulted on their
Then we'd
loan,
own
the town would own it.
You know, and like I said, as long as we're getting good service out of it.
That you would have open access on,
Right.
that's how we've kind of.
There you go.
This is
Yeah.
really actually what we've rolled out across all the communities we've worked in, which is a little unique. But the $1.2 million of the town contribution, the way we set that up is essentially at that point, you're actually getting a match of open access fiber.
Right.
So that you're getting a ring built out, you're a subsidized ring essentially, that you would own and be able to lease out to other providers, which would reduce their costs if they wanted to come in and build that as well. That's your insurance policy is what we call it,
Right.
right? If we're not doing a great job, if you guys are tired of working with us or something like that, regardless of, whether we defaulted on the loan or not, if we completed the project, you guys just want another internet provider, you still have open access fiber along the same network that another provider could come tap into and provide, fiber internet as well.
And we did have
And
interest
that's
in
what
that,
the
correct?
$1.2 million
Yes.
is, and that's really where DOLA likes to jump in, and we were talking with Katie about working with Region 10 or with Virgil Turner on maybe going after some DOLA funding for that open access fiber. But that would bring in some money, that gives you guys an insurance policy and just some padding just in case you wanted another provider.
Right.
So, just to clarify, the loan is, we loan the money to Clear Networks? Or we get funding from a lender and they,
No, we loan the money to Clear Networks. And you're gonna have some people involved in this documentation that, if they default on their payments,
gotcha, I understand that.
yeah.
I just wanted to
No, we're,
make clarity, because, it kind of
But we will
makes you
have,
think that the town's only contributing 1.2 million, but really we're contributing 2.7 million to make it happen. Not that we wouldn't get it back.
yes,
But
yes.
and there's hard assets there.
Over 20, I had 24 months, and 24 months of this construction, so I don't see that timeline in here now, but,
We already talked to a subcontractor, their bid came back pretty high, so we need to go back and work with them or put it out as an RFP and get some more people involved, but, their timeline was actually 10 months for a full town build out. So if we had access to all that capital and could just hit the ground running, I mean, it's a 10-month timeline roughly, or a 10 to 12-month timeline.
wow.
That's obviously best case scenario, we'd love to just come in and just get everyone hooked up, but again, if you slow down the funding, that just slows down the project. So that's kind of where
So this is not in our budget currently.
No.
Do we have funds to cover this if we added it to the budget? Probably not.
Well, you
Right.
have reserves. Keep in mind, you just also got
Yeah,
into a housing
That's
project
what
as
I'm worried
well.
about.
Yeah, it would
But,
probably be
but your
stretching.
water line project is under budget, so, you know, I'm not gonna say there's funds there, but there's reserves in your other funds. But
We
you
could
would have to
borrow.
figure out if that's the direction you would want to go.
I don't want to touch the reserves.
Yeah, I mean,
Depends.
we could
We've already
commit to getting
touched-
started
We've
with,
already touched the reserves.
with hopes that some of this other funding comes through from.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be really key, is making certain that we're in
Mhm.
line for this federal funding as it comes down the line. And honestly, I feel
Right.
pretty confident in a lot of that, just because we are where we are and the need is such in rural areas. You know, these trillions of dollars
That's
that
like so out
they're
of my-
talking
I don't know,
about
me
is,
too.
they're just, the numbers are so huge that I just can't see where we're not gonna get some of that trickling down.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get started on this project and just figure this out, because, like
It's
I
so
said, this
important.
was our priority. We've realized during COVID how,
Yeah, but she's just
Dire
saying
need
that
our
there's
town
no
is.
way to do this without touching our reserves right now. So we have to find some additional funding sources, grants, whatever.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, I mean, I feel comfortable that we're doing this housing project and, we have funds to do that. I just don't want to like dig in into more of our reserves and more of our reserves every time we turn around.
but the alternative is to go out and see what kind of grants we can get, maybe extending this.
So how much
Whole
do we have
project
in our
for-
reserves?
Well, you have a financial statement here. So you have $8.7 million in cash. I'm not saying that's reserves, but that's what's in cash. I would have to, I believe that when, I don't have my budget with me, and I don't know if I can find it really quickly here on this flash drive, but I believe there was, money that you had. Of course, this also impacts, if we need to reduce our I&I, we may be able to save our sewer plant from capital purchase for a long period of time. So you're making a good maintenance statement there. So there's some other things that I will look at. But keep in mind that I just got this today.
Right.
You
Yeah.
just got this today. There's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, I need 2 weeks to ask questions, and I need to go ask questions again, need to turn this back over to, Dola and Virgil Turner and have this discussion about this potential.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
USDA also has loan grant. It's available. I always shy away from those, but if that's another agency that we can go to, we're gonna have more strings attached to it, but
Right.
that's definitely a direction we could go.
Well, can't even make a yay or nay without knowing what we have left in reserves. I mean, 8.7 million in cash is a lot, but
That's
if
correct.
this is,
Might already be allocated.
but I don't,
someplace.
exactly, I don't know where it's allocated towards, so,
Yep.
that sounds like a great number, but
I agree.
till we know exactly what those numbers look like, I just don't want us to get in a position where our town does not have reserves. Because what if something happens and we need to fork out some money right away on a 500,000 project or $1 million project that's necessary, that you can't avoid, and we have no money? I'm not okay with that, so. I would like to also know some loan options, not loan to them options,
Right.
loan for the project options.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear what happens after Friday as well, that discussion, and what it looks like for this area.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed to me there ought to be some real low-cost loans available through USDA or
Mhm.
somebody like that, or some institution like that, not somebody like that, but.
If we were to, if I'm understanding you, you're saying we should look at loans, we should look to borrow money,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
And
if we're gonna
does
look
that-
at
but
everything, yes.
But my question is that sort of thing that would have to go to a vote because of Tabor? If we're going into debt?
Possibly, it depends on, there's a lot of things that,
Unless it's an enterprise, but
Yeah,
you're
and
not,
if-
it's not gonna be an enterprise you're gonna run, so.
I'm sorry?
So those, it's not gonna be an enterprise that you're gonna operate, so that would, those are all questions I would have to
Yeah, okay.
explore.
So let's just revisit this in a couple weeks. We'll get some more
Yeah.
information out.
Yeah, I would just like to see more numbers.
Yes,
Real
I
numbers.
agree.
Okay.
What is the estimated take rate of 40%? What does that mean?
That means that out of 100 residences, 40 residents will probably take their internet service.
There you go. I won that bet.
He won.
Does anybody have any questions for Casey while he's on here? If there's any last minute questions, or Casey, if you have anything else you'd like to add?
So I think we still got a lot of details on our end, and even talking with Katie to work through. We wanted to get something in front of you guys and in front of Katie. So I think just hearing this conversation has been really helpful for us. And we'll continue to work through those details and see where we end up with both proposals turned in by subcontractors, whether or not we're gonna have, our own in-house crews kind of do some of this work and maybe save some costs. And also where some grant funding can be kind of located at. So, yeah, just, we would encourage the town to just kind of open conversation with us, let us know what thoughts you have, what questions you have. We'll continue to work through this and see how we can attack this thing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to board reports. Anybody got anything?
The senior board will meet tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Planning commission, we're gonna be, talk to your neighbors. We need somebody to join the planning commission.
Thank you, I was just gonna say that, yep.
All right, does anybody else have anything to add?
Southwest COG meets next week, so.
Alliance was this morning, it's the same old affordable housing discussion. That's all I have. If nobody has anything else, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. It is 8:05. Oh. Go ahead.
Everyone, I'm Jimena Martinez, I'm from Argentina. I am a fairly recent resident from Bayfield. And I'm being sponsored through Pine River Shares to teach yoga at the old high school gym on Tuesdays and Fridays. So if you'd like, it's gonna be, we started on April 6th. And we're adding more classes on Thursday. So if you guys want to pass this around, it's gonna be free until the end of May.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, yeah.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
Thank you.